The term was first coined by sociologist Charles Derber in his 1979 book, The Pursuit of Attention. But sadly, conversational narcissists have existed for a long, long time. A conversational narcissist is someone who has basically failed to understand the social, collaborative, and joint nature of conversation, and who uses the medium instead to gain attention for themselves. Instead of using the chance to engage with another to learn and connect, such a person uses conversation as a way to bolster their own ego, to demand attention and recognition. In other words, they see others as audience members. Now, just assume that this horrible affliction just happens to other people. As part of his research, Derber listened in on more than 1,500 talks and had to sadly conclude that most were conversational narcissists, despite being well-intentioned. Being self-absorbed and trying to make everything about you, it seems, is actually pretty common. But it also means that you're missing out on opportunities to have more genuine, more informative, more satisfying conversations with people, not to mention coming across as a bore. Conversational narcissism can be understood as a kind of default that we fall into when we fail to make efforts to truly listen. Sadly, conversational narcissism tends to reproduce itself. A big trigger for behaving this way is often the sense that we're not being listened to, but the other person is too busy with themselves to pay attention to us. Yet the more we try to make the conversation about us, the more the other person feels the same way and responds by trying to edge their way into the limelight. Ultimately, connection is lost, and the conversation becomes a battleground or dissolves entirely. The first step is to fully own your part of the conversational contract. You can't do anything about other people's behavior, but you can go a long way to model genuine listening and create a frame of respect and collaboration rather than self-absorption. Reframe the way you understand the purpose of conversation. Why do people talk at all? Is it to prove how great they are? To show off? To elicit praise and flattery? Is it to show how much you know or have someone agree with you and confirm your views? While most of us want to say no, be on guard for when you might be speaking within this frame. Constantly remind yourself that the overarching purpose of any communication is to connect. A good conversation is not something you fight over with the other person to win, and it's not something you begrudgingly share with them, anxiously waiting for your turn so you can snatch attention back from them. Rather, it's like a dance you do together, something you co-create. If you find that your conversation partner is seeming to get in the way somehow, this is a sign you're doing something wrong. It should never be a competition. Don't jump ahead. We have all had the experience of quietly thinking to ourselves that what we plan to say the moment the person in front of us shuts up. Our eyes may even glaze over as we stop listening to them and instead think about the fantastic argument we're going to make once they're done with whatever it is they're blabbing on about. It's a bad habit. As much as you can, try to stay present with what the person's saying. Don't rush ahead to try to imagine what they're going to say next, and likewise, don't start thinking of your own response. Remember the hurrier model and tell yourself that you can respond after you've really listened, understood, and processed the message. Another good idea? Remind yourself that you actually don't have to respond at all. It's not a requirement for you to weigh in or for you to hurry to get your equal share of airtime. Confident, secure speakers don't need to dominate the conversation because they prioritize the flow and are enjoying the dialogue. Who exactly is speaking is not so relevant. Avoid advice. As a general rule, never give unsolicited advice, and be careful even if it is solicited. Ask yourself, when was the last time you desperately wanted to hear what someone else thought you should do? It's not often, right? But you probably do find yourself wanting to be heard, respected, and empathized with on a fairly regular basis. Commit to offering the same thing to others. The truth is that most people give advice because they like the way it makes them feel, wise and powerful. Most people dislike receiving unsolicited advice precisely because they can sense this unconscious motivation. Rather than getting enamored with your own vision of what the other person should do or what their situation means, become curious about how they see it, what they value, and what they are trying to accomplish. If you catch yourself wanting to say, "Well, I think you should," try asking a question instead. Stop centering yourself. When you're being a conversational narcissist, it's as though you're moving through the conversation with a certain thought hovering in your awareness. What has this got to do with me? What can I get out of this? How can I make sure this road is leading back to me somehow? So they may say something about scuba diving, and you immediately think, what has scuba diving got to do with me? I know. I did a scuba diving course when I was a teenager, and I have a pretty funny anecdote about a stingray. When they're done talking, I'm going to share my anecdote. Or maybe they say that they gained 5 pounds over Christmas and are feeling a little bad about themselves, and you immediately think, well, that's sad and all, but what can I get out of it? I'm pretty good at stuff like this. I know all about nutrition and fitness. As soon as they stop talking, I'm going to share my brilliant diet advice, and then they'll think I'm clever. Granted, few people literally think in such selfish terms, but the effect of continually centering yourself is the same regardless. Instead of talking about the other person or about the topic in general, you're constantly making the focus of the conversation yourself. This is tricky because everyone wants to talk about themselves to some degree, but do it too much, and people will tire of you and find you difficult to connect with. Imagine your attention and focus is a beam of light. Constantly shine it away from you and onto the topic or the other person. The frame is not, what about me, but this idea is interesting. What's this? Or, hey, tell me more about you. Watch out for passive conversational narcissism, too. Our description so far has been quite over the top, but you can dominate conversations in subtler, more passive ways. If someone keeps sharing something with you, but you fail to ask follow-up questions, it's like you're being tossed a ball that you repeatedly let fall to the ground. The game never goes anywhere. Sometimes people signal their lack of interest in someone else by simply not giving any supportive responses, not asking any questions, or even not acknowledging that they've heard the message. This can be a conscious or unconscious way of controlling the conversation, since eventually the other person will just stop talking. And then you can jump in and have the limelight again. What if they're the conversational narcissist? Sadly, chances are they will be, at least some of the time. You might be wondering if it's worth going to the effort of asking questions, listening empathically, and decentering yourself if the other person will only grab the opportunity to hog the conversation. This can be tricky to deal with. Always start by giving others the benefit of the doubt and ask them about themselves before sharing details about you. If they simply never ask, well, you can politely disengage and make sure you're not wasting more time than you strictly have to. You never have to suffer in silence while being talked at, and you shouldn't feel bad for wanting to disengage from a boring, one-sided conversation. Try as much as you're willing to gently steer them onto something else, but if they're not budging, cut your losses and bail. Sometimes people are having a selfish day. Sometimes they're just plain old selfish. Be polite, but end it. Whatever you do, don't get embroiled in a fight for attention. You can never convince a conversational narcissist to care about you, and you can certainly never beat them at their own game. This has been How to Speak Effectively, Influence, Engage, and Charm, written by Patrick King, narrated by Russell Newton. Copyright 2023 by Patrick King. Production copyright by Patrick King.